Some murder cases are solved in just a few days. Others stay unsolved for years. The case files sit on a shelf collecting dust while the killer moves on with life. Some build careers, some start families, and some believe they got away with murder forever. The man in today's story thought exactly that. For more than 16 years, he fooled everyone around him. But one small mistake would finally expose the truth. Rebecca Gould was 22 years old. She was a college student from Melbourne, Arkansas, a small town where almost everyone knew each other. She was kind, hardworking, and very close to her family, especially her younger sister, called Danielle. Not long before her death, Rebecca moved to Fayetteville to attend college. She shared an apartment with Danielle, worked while studying, and was looking forward to build her future. In September 2004, the sisters returned home for the weekend to visit family and friends. Rebecca also spent time with her boyfriend called Casey. The couple had been together for about a year, and Casey lived in a trailer on his parents' property. Everything seemed normal. On the morning of September 20, 2004, Rebecca drove Casey to work at a local fast food restaurant. After dropping him off, she stopped at a nearby store and bought breakfast, a coffee and a sandwich. Then she drove back to the trailer. She planned to rest for a little while before leaving town with Danielle later that day. But she never showed up. At first, Danielle thought her sister had simply changed her plans. By the next morning, she knew something was wrong. Rebecca never ignored her family. She never disappeared without telling anyone. Then Danielle called Casey. He believed Rebecca had already gone back to Fayetteville. No one else had seen her either. So Danielle reported her missing. Police started looking into the case almost immediately. The last person known to be with Rebecca was Casey, her boyfriend. When detectives questioned him, he explained that Rebecca had dropped him off at work that morning. After finishing his shift, he spent the evening with friends before staying overnight at one of their homes. Several people confirmed his story. At first, everything seemed too much, but still detectives wanted to search the trailer. Casey agreed with no problem. The moment investigators walked inside, something felt wrong. A strong smell of bleach filled the air. Rebecca's car was still parked outside. Inside the trailer, almost everything she owned was still there. Her purse, her phone, her money, even the breakfast she had bought that morning. The coffee and the sandwich were still sitting there untouched. It looked as if she had walked inside and never walked back out. Her small dog was also inside. Her family knew she would never leave her dog behind without a reason. Then detectives entered the bedroom. The bed was a mess. The blanket was missing. A few minutes later, they found it inside the washing machine. It was covered in blood. There was also an open bottle of bleach next to the bed. When investigators lifted the mattress, they found the large blood stains underneath. Someone had flipped the mattress over, trying to hide the evidence. Lab tests later confirmed the blood belonged to Rebecca. At that moment, the missing person case became a murder investigation. Because of the amount of blood inside the trailer, detectives believed Rebecca had almost certainly been killed there. Casey quickly became the main suspect, but there was one major problem. His alibi was strong. Co-workers confirmed Rebecca had dropped him off at work that morning. Friends picked him up after his shift. They all went to see a movie before spending the night together. Everything was backed up by witnesses. Police searched for even the smallest mistake in his story, but they couldn't find one, at least one. Then, 1 week later, the case took a heartbreaking turn. Rebecca's body was found at the bottom of a ravine near a quiet country road. She had been hit twice in the head with a heavy object. The second blow crushed her skull. She had also been strangled. The attack had been brutal. The medical examiner estimated she died on the same day she disappeared. One detail shocked investigators. The wounds on Rebecca's head matched the shape of missing wooden piano leg from Casey's trailer. Police believed it had been used as the murder weapon, but despite extensive searches, he was nowhere to be found. There was no sign of sexual assault. Rebecca also had no defensive wounds that suggested she either trusted the person who attacked her or never saw the attack coming. Even tough, many people believed Casey was guilty. Detectives couldn't prove it. His alibi held up again and again. The investigation had reached a dead end. And for years, Rebecca Gould's killer remained free. For years, the case went nowhere. Police looked at every possible suspect. Rebecca's ex-boyfriend was questioned. People she knew were questioned. Even members of Casey's family were investigated. One by one, every lead came to the same ending. No evidence, no arrest. Rebecca's family refused to give up. They kept asking police to reopen the case. They even hired a private investigator, hoping someone would finally find the missing piece. But nothing changed. Years passed. Then, in 2018, everything started moving again. A true crime podcast told Rebecca's story to a new audience. People from the local area began talking about the case again. New tips came in. Most of them led nowhere, but one thing caught the attention of investigators. In 2020, the Arkansas State Police assigned a new detective to the case. Instead of trusting the old investigation, he started over from the beginning. He read every report. He interviewed witnesses again. He rebuilt the timeline step by step. As he looked through the case, one name stood out: William Miller, Casey's cousin. Back in 2004, William had been in town helping his mother's move. He had stopped by Casey's trailer the night before Rebecca disappeared. Police spoke with him once and then almost forgot about him. Since then, William had moved overseas. He was living in the Philippines with new family. He worked abroad and traveled often between different countries. At first, nothing connected him to the murder. Then, investigators made an interesting discovery. A Facebook group had been created to discuss Rebecca's unsolved case. William had joined the group. That alone wasn't strange, but his behavior was. He commented at all the time. He shared old newspapers and stories. He talked about details that very few people knew. He even suggested that someone else, not Casey, was responsible for Rebecca's murder. It almost seemed as if he wanted to control the conversation. One member of the group became curious. She started looking into William's family. Soon, she discovered he wasn't just another person following the case. He was Casey's cousin. The group sent everything they had found to the Arkansas State Police. The detective already had questions about him. Now, he had even more. Police could not arrest him. He was living outside the United States, so they waited. His passport was placed on a watch list. The plan was simple. The next time William entered the country, they would be ready. That moment came in October 2020. William flew back to the United States to visit family. Police contacted him and asked if he would come in for an interview. To their surprise, he agreed. William walked into the interview room looking calm and relaxed. He told detectives he had nothing to hide. The interview didn't begin with questions about the murder. Instead, they talked about his family, his work, his life overseas. Little by little, William became comfortable. Then the questions changed. Detectives asked him about September 2004, about Casey, about Rebecca. William said he barely remembered that weekend. He claimed he wasn't very close to Casey. He also said he believed Casey and Rebecca had been arguing. That answer caught the detective's attention. Every other witness had said the opposite. No one remembered any argument. William was the only one person telling that story. The detective left him keep talking. Then he asked a simple question. Would William be willing to give a DNA sample? William refused. He quickly explained that his DNA could have been left inside Casey's trailer during one of his visits. The detective had not even said where they planned to compare the DNA. William had assumed the worst. It was a small reaction, but detectives noticed it. Next came a polygraph test. William agreed. Before the test even started, he seemed nervous. He worried his blood pressure medicine might affect the results. But the examiner assured him it wouldn't. The test went ahead. Of course, William failed. A failed polygraph is not a proof of murder, but it gave the detective confidence to push harder. They decided it was time to take a risk. They told William something that wasn't true. They said police had found Rebecca's blood inside his old pickup truck. The detective watched his face. Within seconds, everything changed. William stopped acting confident. His briefing changed. His answers changed. And for the first time in 16 years, his story began to fall apart. Believing the police had real evidence against him, William quickly changed his story. He claimed that on the morning Rebecca disappeared, he had seen a young man driving a white car near Casey's trailer. According to William, the man suddenly ran away. Curious, William said he walked into the trailer to see what had happened. Inside, he claimed he found blood on the bed. He believed Rebecca had been attacked and kidnapped. But there was one big problem. If that story was true, why had he stayed silent for 16 years? Why had he never told the police? The detectives already knew the answer. William had just been caught in a lie. After several more minutes questioning, he finally gave up. He looked at the detectives and admitted he was ready to tell the truth. According to his confession, he went to Casey's trailer on the morning of September 20, 2004. He knocked the door. Rebecca knew who he was, so she invited him inside. William later said he only asked to use the phone as an excuse to get in. Once inside, he bumped into a small piano. One of its wooden legs fell onto the floor. He picked it up and hit Rebecca 2 eyes in the head. Then he wrapped a necktie around her neck and strangled her until she stopped breathing. After the murder, William tried to erase every sign of what had happened. He cleaned the trailer with bleach. He put the bloody blanket into the washing machine. He flipped the mattress over to hide the blood underneath. Then he placed Rebecca's body inside the suitcase. He loaded it in his truck and drove away. On the way, he even passed the local police station. He wasn't worried. He believed no one would ever stop him. Short time later, he dumped Rebecca's body in a remote ravine. He also threw away the suitcase and the wooden piano leg. The suitcase was later found where William said it would be. The piano leg was never found. After getting rid of the evidence, William simply went home. His family had no idea what he had done. Life continued as if nothing had happened. For more than 16 years, no one suspected him. But detectives still had one question. Why did he do it? William could not give a clear answer. He said Rebecca had not threatened him. She had not insulted him. He also denied trying to sexually assault her. According to William, he was suddenly overcome by anger and lost control. The detectives found that hard to believe. The murder had been too organized. He cleaned the scene, he moved the body, he hid the evidence. Nothing about it looked like a random outburst. So, investigators decided to push him one last time. They told William they believed he had killed before. Again, they were bluffing, but once it worked. William claimed Rebecca wasn't his first victim. He told detectives he had killed other women over the years. He even marked several places on a map where he said bodies could be found. Search teams later checked those locations. Nothing was found. Without bodies or psychical evidence, police could not prove those murders had happened. To this day, no one knows whether William told the truth or whether he was simply trying to make himself look like something he wasn't. In the end, there was only enough evidence to prove one murder, the murder of Rebecca Gould. William's confession included details that had never been made public. He knew exactly how Rebecca had been killed. He knew how the trailer had been cleaned. He led police to the area where the suitcase had been thrown away. Those were things only the killer could have known. In November 2022, William Miller pleaded guilty to Rebecca's murder. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. He will become eligible for parole in 2048. For Rebecca's family, justice had finally arrived. But even today, the case continues to divide people. Some still believe Casey somehow knew more than he admitted. Others believe William acted completely alone. And then there is no final question. Did William really have other victims? Or was Rebecca Gould the only person he ever killed? No one knows for sure, but one thing is certain. For 16 years, long years, Rebecca's killer lived a normal life while her family searched for answers. In the end, it wasn't one piece of evidence that solved the case. He was a detective willing to start over, a community that refused to forget, and a killer who believed he was too smart to ever get caught.